Hello, hello. Today we have Lunar Beauties. This is the Moonshroom collection. This just came out. I've now have used every single color in this palette. Of course, per usual, I also got one of his lip glosses, and I got 3 of his brushes here, which you can see I've used because they are now very dirty. These 2 are still dirty. I haven't washed them yet. But I got this collection pretty much launch day, the day it launched, and I was able to save 10% off with code Allie. She's another YouTuber here. I believe that code is affiliated, just for your information. But this is what I got. So here's the little card that comes with this collection, and on the back there is some more. This is the palette that we'll be reviewing today. I wasn't very interested in the highlighter palette because I have so many highlighters from Ofra already, and I love my Ofra highlighters. I really don't, honestly, personally don't feel the point of reviewing other highlighters because I just think Ofra did it, they've done it, I don't know if you could really do it better. And here are the 3 lip glosses that come with this collection. I got the shade Soul. I was thinking of buying all 3, but I decided to pull it back a bit, tame myself in my bank account, and I just got one just to try. So here's the palette, and let's just start with a quick little mention of the brushes. So I got 3 brushes here. They're all different, and it looks like, let me look at my phone here. So I got, this is $5 and these other 2 were $6 each. So this is a small little brush here. I used this one for my shimmers, and if you can tell by how dirty these are, I used these for my outer corner, essentially to buff out all my mattes. I didn't have any issue with these brushes. They're really pretty. You can see here this is LBE-3. We got LBE-2 and LBE-7. I think they're pretty nice brushes. I think these kind of ended up reminding me a bit of the Sigma brushes. They're really nice and soft. I was surprised by the quality of the brushes. They are very soft. So $6 brushes, and it's like this. I love that. They were originally white, which does hurt my heart every time when I have to use a white bristle because I know this is how they're gonna end up looking. But overall, I like these brushes. These are very good brushes. I think they're a little bit better than Morphe brushes. They were very nice, and I honestly this morning just ordered 2 more. So I do like these brushes. I like the design. And that's the review on the brushes. So next, let's talk about this lip gloss. This is the Soul lip gloss. This is $17. It's $17 a lip gloss. Here's obviously the unit card in. Here is the actual lip gloss. Very unique. Look at that crystal on the top. It's very cute. And I'm just going to do a little swatch for you here. And have you ever tried Jaclyn Hill's lip lacquers? This has, sorry to ruin it for y'all, this has the same exact scent. The same exact scent Jaclyn Hill used for her Morphe lip lacquers. It has the same exact scent. I kind of want to use some now. Ew. It's so nice. It's like a vanilla frosted cupcake is the best way I could describe it. It tastes like a vanilla frosted cupcake. It's really nice. Here's the bristles, the brush, the wand, whatever you want to call it. It's really nice. It's easy to apply. As you can see here, it's a little bit brown, a little bit of that neutral. I think it would work pretty much for every lip color, no matter what. It's not super intense. This was the darker of the 3, and it just gives it a really nice, simple, neutral lip. Looking at my own lips, yeah, it just gives them a shimmer. And if you can catch that there, but there is a little bit of like a gold sparkle reflect on it, but it's a really nice simple lip gloss. I will say, oh, maybe you can capture it here. Oh, this formula, personally, honestly, is not like anything I've tried before in my recent memory that I can really compare it to, because it feels almost like a lip oil, but not. It's not as thick, because the lip oils that I like don't feel like what you might think of actual oil on your lips. The lip oils I like are just very thick consistency lip glosses. So I really like a thick lip gloss. I don't mind that. That's what I think of when I think of a lip oil. And this is like, it's an in-between kind of texture of almost a lip oil, but not a lip gloss. It's kind of in the middle. And it's a very interesting feeling on your lips. It's super smooth. It's not sticky at all. It doesn't feel heavy. It doesn't feel like what you might think of like vinyl on the lips. It is It is a very comfortable formula. I don't remember this lasting any more or less than any other formula. I think it's pretty standard. I think it lasted a decent amount for how much you might expect a lip gloss to last on the lips. It does feel initially moisturizing. It does feel like it is nourishing my lips. I would have to use this a little bit more. I've only used it like 3 or 4 times to really say and give a full, like, this absolutely is very beautiful and moisturizing for your lips. I feel like initially it does, but it's so comfortable, I forget I'm wearing it. So I don't even remember to think about how I want to review this, but this is a very nice, comfortable lip gloss. It's definitely unique. I really like it. I would purchase more, but for, what was it, $17? $17 for a lip gloss? That seems a little heavy. I think if I would purchase a lip gloss again, it would be on sale, but this is something that I do recommend. I would buy this again. Alright, so now we are finally at the palette. This is the Moonshroom palette from Lunar Beauty. I feel like the art... I'm sorry, but I feel like the artwork, I don't know, isn't fully my fantasy. I think when I think mushrooms and you're going to have like a psychedelic mushroom in there specifically, I really do think more of the packaging that Jeffree Star came out with his psychedelic palette. I like this. This is more of what I think of when I'm thinking Moonshrooms. But other than that, I mean, I don't really care for the artwork on this. I do feel like it could have been a little cooler, but I understand the concept of like having this really groovy background and then like the mushrooms are all cartoon. So this is just the box. The actual palette I have right here, and they are exactly the same. You're going to see what you find on one is more or less what you're going to find on the other. This is the back. This is the back of the box. So let's set that aside and let's open up this palette here. But first, there is this gorgeous, the iconic Lunar Beauty Moon. You will find that on every one of these palettes. There is this gorgeous, hollow, reflective, raised, which by the way, ASMR, these are all raised. I hope you can see that there. They're all raised. And it's a nice, smooth, it's a thick, sturdy cardboard. And you can see there that the inside of the palette is going to be this light pale yellow. But now let's truly open it up and see it. Alright, inside you will find a very large mirror, which we're going to cover up. But here is the palette. I think color story wise, this is my favorite color story from Lunar Beauty. I absolutely love yellows. I think if you look on the website, I think you will find that this is one of the more colorful palettes. I've seen on the website he has some palettes that are very purple, or very pink, or very neutral. A lot of browns, a lot of light pinks, light browns, light purples, but I really like this one because it has all these beautiful yellows, and then it has this interesting row of shimmers, and then we got this row of darks at the bottom. I hadn't thought about it before, so a couple things. Yellow is my color because it's my birthday color for November. Purple is my husband's birthday color because he's born in February. So our wedding was yellow and purple. So I was immediately called to this because there is yellow and purples in here. And that was just my color story for my wedding. So it's just a very personal detail. But another thing that really called to me about this, which a lot of people noticed as well, is that it really looks like the ColourPop Raw Beauty Christie palette. There's a lot of that kind of PNW, Pacific Northwest kind of inspiration, and I am in Oregon, so I can definitely see how that's inspired. But I think once you see both palettes together, you can see that the color stories are semi-similar, but it's definitely a different palette. And if I were to choose between this one and the Raw Beauty Christie ColourPop, I would definitely choose this one. The Raw Beauty Christie and ColourPop collab, I bought that whole collab, you guys, when it came out, and the shades from ColourPop were not it. They were so awful. They were so bad. I used it twice, and it ruined my looks for very important occasions. I was supposed to be meeting my husband's family on his dad's side for the first time, and it absolutely mucked up my makeup, and I never used it again, and I gave it away. So I did not like that Raw Beauty Christie ColourPop palette. I really hated it, but this one's so much more interesting. Overall, I know I've just said that I really like this color story, but the actual formulation of the shades, very bizarre. This is the first time I've come across this because I have nothing to compare it to, but essentially, and it was mostly I think an issue with the yellow shades down here, unfortunately. Once you got the color on your brush, you could only place shades. You can only place shades. You cannot, it was really difficult to blend out. So like, see there? I can place the shade. That's not an issue. it takes a lot longer. But essentially, these matte shades wanted to be patted down. They did not really want to move, but as long as you patted it down, you got some beautiful color, and it's absolutely gorgeous. But once I tried to blend it out, let's go into this lines main over here, it was a lot more difficult to move around on my eye. And it ended up kind of looking patchy, but which by the way, there's a lot of fallout in the pan and when blending, but it was very difficult to blend. I found it very hard to blend out, and it ended up looking patchy because the shade wanted to be placed. I didn't want to blend out. On my hand here, it doesn't look too bad. On my eye, I did have a lot of difficulty with it. I don't know why. I used the Lunar Beauty brushes with this palette because I was keeping it OG. I was keeping it all together. I'm like, I'm going to use these new brushes, the Lunar Beauty brushes, with the Lunar Beauty palette. And I found that the shades overall were very difficult to blend out. Eventually, I did get everything looking the way I wanted, but it did take time because the shades kind of, which, so much fallout. There's a lot of powdery stuff on there. It just wanted to be placed. It didn't really want to be blended out. And other than, so I was kind of bummed out over that. Overall, at the end, it did end up looking the way I wanted it to, but I felt I spent more time trying to get my colors to blend together than I needed to. This doesn't feel like a beginner-friendly palette, so I think this palette should definitely go to someone who has been doing their own makeup for a while, because they'll have, I think, more patience with this than maybe someone who's just starting off. And then, of course, our shimmers. The shimmers in here were not as, how do I say this? They were a lot more muted than I was expecting. It's definitely more of a ladies' classier eye situation with this. If you're looking for the big kablam, kapow moment, I don't think you're going to find it in this palette with these shimmers. But I think these are the kind of shimmers someone like my mom would like, where it's got some shimmer, but it's not really intense. So if we'll do like Fairy Wings, let's do Magic Mushroom, because that's a very interesting color. And then we'll do like, let's do Witch's Hat. I did kind of have to dig around a little bit to try and get it on my brush. But once on my brush, I was able to apply it. So that's this beautiful Magic Mushroom, Fairy Wings, I love a gold, and then Witch's Hat. So these shades I feel like performed almost as if they were singles. I don't know, it's such an interesting formula. I can definitely see the sparkle, you can see the color. Once I was able to get it on my brush, I was able to apply with my brush. I did struggle a little bit to get it on my brush, but it was, how do I say, it wasn't as exciting as I was hoping, but they were still pretty. They were very, what I call like calm down, like classy. This is the, like I said, I think these kinds of shimmer shades would work really well with mature skin because it has some sparkle, but it's not like super intense. I feel like speaking about my mom specifically, like if a color's too shimmery, she's like, it looks like I'm going to a rave. I don't like this shade. But I think these shades, it's almost like a gold foil, you know what I mean? And I love a shade like this as well, so that's really pretty. I like these shades. They're very simple, they're pretty. I don't think they're the worst or the best, but I think it just depends on your preference. I think my favorite matte shades in here were surprisingly this Pixie Pop, and I really liked Dewdrop. I think these two are my favorite because I feel like these two were the easiest to work with. I didn't have to place these, I could actually blend them out. And they didn't end up looking patchy, if you know what I mean. In terms of the shimmer shades, I didn't really have a favorite. There isn't one that stood out to me that sucked. They were all pretty standard shimmer shades within this palette. They all worked pretty similarly. Of the mattes, some worked a bit better than others. Like I said, these yellows and browns up here, they wanted to be placed. They didn't really want to be blended out. But once placed, I mean, the look ended up still looking very nice. With these shades, I almost found like the darker shades were a little bit easier to blend out. But overall, I think the thing that shocked me the most about this palette was the, what's the word? longevity, like these shades, the looks that I did with this palette lasted all day. I noticed hardly any creasing, any lumps or bumps where makeup coming off. It lasted a lot longer than I thought it was going to. I would apply this in the morning, and by nighttime when it was time to shower, I feel like my looks had kind of slightly changed, but it still hadn't really incredibly creased as it should have after a 10 or 12 hour day. So I was really shocked with that. So that's kind of the main reason why I'm keeping it. Even though some of the mattes in here were a bit difficult to use and took a little bit longer, I'm willing to work with these yellows. I think the shimmers in here were alright. As my husband would say, it's nothing to really write home about. And I think the easiest shades to work with were honestly the darks for some reason, somehow. But I'm keeping this palette. I don't know if I can fully recommend this palette for anyone who would just want it. I think that if you get this palette, you should know you might have to work at it. I have watched other people review this palette, and no one has really talked about how this may not be for every single person who wants it out there. I do feel like this is more for someone who wants more of a muted look, especially with the shimmers. You get some shimmers, but they're not too intense. You do have to work with your lighter shades for a little longer, but overall, I think this is a really unique color story. I personally feel like we don't see a lot of color stories where one of the rows is majorly in a major part of the palette is a color yellow. We don't really see entire rows being yellow inspired, and I would love to see that more because it's my favorite color in here. I love the pops of color, and like I said, I really like, let's see, oh my god, it matches my nails. Isn't that cool? I liked this Pixie Pop, which by the way, they have, we got Dewdrop over here. I'm so afraid to ruin the embossing on it, but let's see if we can get one. Like over here, she's upside down, but there's fairies, and then there's mushrooms embedded in there. I'm so scared, I don't want to mess up the embossing, they're so pretty. But like I said, these two were my favorite mattes. I'll place them up here. I really love this pop of color. You can see here on my hand it's kind of done what I said it would do, which is it wants to be placed. This looks like not the best one, but this really was like one of the better colors. So like I said, it kind of wants to be placed versus like blended out. See if I can get it to do with one of these other shades. I'm going to go to chocolate truffle. That one wasn't too bad, but I feel like it was kind of hard to blend out. You can see there, it's kind of stays there. Like once you got it down, it doesn't really blend out. It wants to stay. It wants to be pressed in and blended by little by little. So I feel like that's kind of, I guess you could see that example a lot better with my finger than you could with the brushes. The brushes on my skin, it worked a lot better, but the brushes on the eyes, I don't blame the brushes, I think it was the product. Overall, I think that the lip gloss could be used for anyone. I think the brushes are affordable enough and to be used for anyone. The lip gloss is a little pricey, so that's up to you whether you want to spend that kind of money on a lip gloss. I would suggest waiting for a sale when there is one available for the lip gloss, because the lip gloss is very nice. For the palette, it doesn't feel like a palette for everybody. I think if you're willing to work with it and if you want more kind of subdued, subtle shimmers, this might be the palette for you. But otherwise, I'm keeping this palette. I love yellows and purples, and this is such a unique color story. I'm very excited to have this in my collection.